You ever get accused of something so wild it almost makes you laugh, right up until you realize folks might actually believe it? That was me the day Claudia stomped across my property line, voice trembling like she'd just discovered a doomsday plot, shouting for anyone who'd listen that I was hoarding spring water and endangering children. For a heartbeat, I just stared at her, thinking, has the world lost its mind? That spring's been bubbling out of our ground since before my dad could hold a fishing pole, but now, somehow, I was the villain poisoning my own land. Then the flyers showed up, glossy, fear-mongering things, taped to every mailbox overnight. Pictures of dead fish, muddy rivers, toxic waste, none of it anywhere near us, but the panic was instant. My phone started blowing up with calls from neighbors, some angry, some just scared, asking if their babies were at risk, if their wells were tainted. I wish I could say I laughed it off, but you try telling a worried parent there's nothing to fear after they've spent the morning staring at pictures of poisoned water. If you think you'd believe a word of this circus, comment below. I'm genuinely curious. Saturday was like any other for the last 15 years. Coffee first, then out to check my fish ponds and make sure the spring was flowing steady, the feeders humming. Our little aquaculture business isn't just a hobby. We supply restaurants, farmers markets. Half the folks around here probably ate our trout at some point. My grandfather nailed down those water rights in 1947, and I've got every last permit filed where any county official can find them. But that morning, here comes Claudia, clipboard in hand, marching through the mud in shoes that screamed city money, acting like she owned the place. She never bothered with small talk, just starts waving papers, yelling about community resource allocation standards. Says I'm hoarding water that belongs to everyone in the neighborhood. I nearly spit my coffee, thinking, what community resources? This spring bubbles up on my property, fills my ponds, flows downstream same as always. 15 years, not one complaint. Until Claudia decided rural life should come with a picket fence and a silence button for tractors. She kept thrusting that stack of papers at me. Fancy seals, signatures, gold foil, the works. Problem was, none of it made sense. The language sounded like someone copied and pasted from a bad lawyer's show. Excessive agricultural water consumption, unauthorized agricultural monopolization, hoarding spring water. Real government inspectors talk flow rates, environmental impact, not emotional accusations. Hell, half the agencies listed didn't even exist. But I could see in her eyes, Claudia believed she'd finally cornered me. That's about when Helen came out, my wife, the schoolteacher, with her eagle eye for forgeries. She doesn't miss a trick. Kids have tried every excuse in the book on her, so she knows a fake document when she sees one. She barely glanced at Claudia's paperwork before grilling her. Which department issued this? What's the appeal process? Can you provide the regulations? Claudia started fumbling, couldn't get her story straight, claimed a typo on a government stamp was a printing error. You know what I mean? This whole thing was getting shadier by the minute. Then she hits us with the real kicker, $1, $500 fine due immediately, or $10,000 if we contested. 72 hours to pay up, or she'd file for liens and seizure. Nobody in the county government works on a 72-hour timeline, especially not for water rights that predate the neighborhood. It was panic, pure and simple. Intimidate us into forking over cash before we could figure out what the hell was really going on. For a second, even knowing I had the law on my side, that seed of doubt crept in. Maybe there was some new regulation, maybe something slipped by. Helen pulled out her phone, started photographing everything, timestamping it, just in case. We spent 20 minutes trying to get answers, but Claudia just looped through the same threats. Couldn't name a single neighbor who'd complained. Couldn't explain how our spring affected wells half a mile away. Couldn't even clarify what agency she supposedly worked for. By the time she stormed off, I knew this was bigger than a nosy neighbor. This was a campaign. Helen and I sat on the porch, piecing through her fake documents, realizing just how calculated this was. And if Claudia was willing to fake government letters and threaten seizure, what else might she do? That worry kept me up half the night, digging through Grandpa's old files, triple-checking every permit, every survey, making sure we were bulletproof. Monday, just after dawn, things got weird. 3 guys in cheap suits rolled up in mismatched cars, flashing a card from Regional Resource Assessment LLC, saying they were here for a mandatory environmental compliance check. None of them looked older than 25, and their gear looked straight off Craigslist. I pulled out my phone and started live streaming. Let's see what kind of inspection this is, folks. My neighbors started chiming in on the live stream. Tom Henderson, Mrs. Chun, pointing out the obvious. Those aren't real inspectors. Helen stepped in with her teacher voice, cut through their act like butter. The inspectors got nervous quick, and then Deputy Martinez rolled up, badge out. The men couldn't provide any legitimate ID. Their supervisor's number went to voicemail, and while everyone was distracted, I caught one trying to hide a little black device near my property line. Solar panel, antenna, the whole deal. Definitely not standard issue. That's when things escalated. I moved in to document the device, and all three inspectors panicked. One lunged for my phone, but the deputy blocked him. I told Martinez about the device, and he made them stay put while backup came to collect it. The whole thing blew up on the live stream. Neighbors outraged, comments flying. Turns out, similar scams had been run in other counties. This wasn't just about me, it was organized. Helen's nephew works in tech security. He analyzed the device and found it was transmitting live data, our water usage, every detail, to some unknown location 2 miles away, right near a block of properties listed for sale. That was the real play. Target our operation, drum up panic, drive down values, and buy us out cheap. And they were good, sophisticated propaganda, professional print jobs, weaponized fear. By the next morning, red flyers warning of contamination were everywhere. Kids were crying before breakfast. Mrs. Chun was on the phone with the pediatrician, frantic about her twins' health. Claudia called an emergency community meeting, packed the center with anxious parents, handed out sign-up sheets for an environmental safety committee, and tried to paint me as a public menace. The panic was real, but Tom Henderson stood up for me. Grant's been here longer than any of us. And for a moment, the room split. Then Susan Miller broke down on live stream, announcing she'd already called a realtor to get her family out. That was the twist nobody saw coming. Watching neighbors unravel in real time, manipulated by people who'd never cared about the community to begin with. But I wasn't backing down. Helen reached out to Professor Williams at the State University, got him to come present real data, peer-reviewed, plain English, actual credentials. He explained aquaculture actually improves water quality, showed every test result, answered every question. Halfway through, Helen threw the photos of the hidden surveillance device up on the projector. The crowd exploded. Now they saw the scam for what it was. That's when Dr. Reed barged in, waving his own evidence. But Williams handled him like a pro, calmly dismantling every claim, exposing him as a fraud. Claudia's credibility collapsed. Neighbors started apologizing, some even in tears, realizing how thoroughly they'd been played. But I wasn't done. I set up trail cams, and late one night, caught Claudia meeting with a guy in a luxury car, James Crawford, CEO of a development firm. I recorded their whole conversation. Talk of bonuses, sabotage, property neutralization, plans to turn our spring into bottled water and condos. Crawford bragged about running the same con in other counties, manipulating panic to force sales, targeting vulnerable families with kids. I handed the footage to Agent Martinez, and soon enough, the FBI was involved. They equipped me with a wire, had me sit down with Crawford and Claudia as they tried to buy me out. Every word, every threat, every detail about their national operation was captured. When Crawford started bragging about bribing officials, agents burst in and arrested them right there. Turns out this wasn't just a local scam. It was a multi-state racket, hundreds of families targeted, millions laundered. 18 months after Claudia first threatened me with that bogus citation, I watched her get 4 years in federal prison. Crawford got 7, lost everything he stole, and hundreds of families were made whole again. The court protected our spring forever, federal agricultural resource designation, ironclad. Our story became case law. Helen started training other communities how to spot scams. Professor Williams built college courses around our fight. Our fish business boomed. Neighbors rebuilt trust. Kids played by the spring that almost got stolen for a luxury spa. Susan Miller's family moved back, stronger for surviving. State laws changed. Penalties for fake regulatory schemes got real teeth. And across the country, folks learned to question authority before handing over their land. So, what's the lesson after all that? Criminals count on people not asking questions. Shine a light. Show your receipts. and suddenly the bullies lose their grip. My grandfather's paperwork might have saved our spring, but it was the stubborn refusal to bow to intimidation that saved our home. Sometimes justice is slow, but it catches up, one neighbor, one comment, one spotlight at a time. What about you? Would you have fought or taken the money and run? Where do you stand on fear, community, and what's worth defending? Let me know below, because if enough of us shine a light, these schemes can't survive the day.